Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the sprawling, dramatic family tree of the Mahabharata. And the coolest part about this specific history, it was originally told directly to King Janamejaya. Imagine sitting there, listening to a sage recount the unbelievably perilous, edge-of-your-seat history of your own ancestors. We're talking divine intervention, catastrophic curses, and a royal bloodline that just constantly danced on the razor's edge of total extinction. All right, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to hit cosmic roots and early kings, the birth of the Bharata line, curses and succession crises, the rise of the five Pandavas, the survival of the dynasty, and wrap up with the merit of the epic. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Cosmic Roots and Early Kings. We literally have to start at the very beginning, tracing the divine origins of a royal family destined to rule the three worlds. As you can see on this timeline, this bloodline didn't just kick off with a couple of ordinary mortals. According to the text recited by the sage Vaisampayana, this royal lineage came straight from cosmic entities. It traces from Daksha down through Aditi and Vivaswat right to the lord of creation himself, Manu. Then from Manu came Ila, and then Kauravas. So this wasn't just some standard political dynasty, right? This was a literal divine right manifested in human form. And the sheer scale of the rituals these early kings pulled off is just wild. As the lineage passed down from Kauravas to Yayati and eventually to the Pauravas, we hit King Ayutthaya. Get this, he was literally named for the 10,000 male beings, and Ayutthaya, whose fat was required for his massive sacrifice. 10,000! The scale of their power and honestly their devotion was absolutely staggering. And hey, speaking of staggering numbers, how about 2,400? A bit later in the lineage, King Ajmitha had 4 wives who bore him an unbelievable 2,400 sons. You'd think that secures the family tree forever, right? Well, no. Despite that massive number, only one single son, Samvarana, actually perpetuated the dynasty. It really just goes to show that even with overwhelming numbers, the thread of this bloodline was incredibly, incredibly fragile. Moving on to Section 2, Birth of the Bharata line. Let's see how all this builds into a name that echoes so powerfully, the entire epic is named after it. So the dynasty hits a massive, critical crisis early on during the reign of King Dushmanta. He marries Sakuntala, she bears him a son, but the king actually dismisses the child. This totally threatens the future of the entire lineage. In fact, it took a literal voice from the heavens, a celestial messenger stepping in, to set the record straight for the king. That crucial turning point is captured perfectly right here in this dramatic celestial declaration. The messenger basically told Dushmanta, look, the father himself becomes the son, and commanded him to step up and support his child. This divine intervention forced the king's hand, earning the boy the name Bharata, which translates directly to the supported. And it's from Bharata that the mighty city of Hastinapura would eventually be founded. Which brings us to Section 3, Curses and Succession Crises. Because, as we know, this family tree is anything but straightforward. Soon enough, they're facing near extinction again through tragic deaths and, you guessed it, supernatural curses. Generations down the line, the bloodline hits a huge roadblock. After King Santanu, the crown passes to his son Vichitravirya. But Vichitravirya passes away before having any children at all. 0. Leaving the throne completely empty. Without an heir, the entire mighty dynasty of Dushmanta and Bharata was literally teetering on the brink of total erasure. To fix this, the queen mother, Satyavati, resorts to a highly unorthodox backup plan. She calls in her other son from her maidenhood, the powerful ascetic Rishi Dwaipayana, better known to us as Vyasa. She commands him to beget virtuous children for his deceased brother. Vyasa agrees and miraculously sires the next generation of kings, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura. Boom, the royal family is pulled right back from the abyss. But, of course, another crisis strikes almost immediately. King Pandu is out hunting and makes a fatal mistake. He shoots a mating deer, having no idea it's actually a powerful rishi in disguise. With his dying breath, the rishi curses Pandu. If he ever seeks physical gratification, he will drop dead on the spot, meaning the king can never biologically father the next generation without losing his life. Once again, the lineage is completely paralyzed. Section 4. Rise of the five Pandavas. With Pandu tragically sidelined from having children, the royal family has to rely on divine intervention, again, to keep things going. This brings us to the ultimate divine loophole, Laid out nicely in this table, Pandu's wives, Kunti and Madri, have these sacred mantras that let them summon the gods to raise up offspring. By invoking Dharma, Maruta, Sakra, and the twin Ajwins, they give birth to the 5 legendary Pandava brothers, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva. The bloodline survives, but guys, the path forward is anything but peaceful. The Pandavas' path to the throne was literally forged in fire and conflict. When they were brought to Hastinapura after Pandu's death, their cousin Duryodhana, one of Dhritarashtra's 100 sons, was insanely jealous. He tried to drive them away and even cooked up a deceptive plot to burn them alive in Varnavata. But the Pandavas survived. They went into the wilderness, slayed terrifying Rakshasa demons like Hidamba and Vaka, married Drupadi, and eventually made it back to Hastinapura to dwell in peace and, supposedly, continue the family line.
All right, Section 5, Survival of the Dynasty. You'd think with the Pandavas securing power, they'd be set. But the dynasty's survival comes down to one terrifyingly close call.
Look at this comparison. You'd think having 11 royal sons across the 5 Pandava brothers would be a rock-solid guarantee for the lineage, right? Wrong. Through war and massive tragedy, those thriving sons are lost. Suddenly, the entire future of this majestic Paurava race hinges on a single, unborn baby, the child of Abhimanyu and Uttara. And the tragedy just deepens. This infant was struck inside the womb by the magical fire of Ashwatthama's weapon. The child was brought forth at 6 months, completely lifeless. Think about that. This glorious lineage, traced all the way back from the cosmos through thousands of suns down to the mighty Pandavas, was effectively extinct, just wiped out for a brief, horrifying moment. But here is where we witness the final and honestly greatest miracle of the epic. Kunti takes the dead infant on her lap and the mighty Vasudeva steps in. He infuses the lifeless child with sheer energy and strength, literally reviving him from death. And because he was born to a totally extinct race, Vasudeva names him Parikshit. That same Parikshit grows up to father King Janamejaya, the exact same guy sitting there listening to this epic history. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. The circle is miraculously complete.
Section 6, the merit of the epic. As we draw this explainer to a close, we really need to look at how the source text itself views the sheer power of this narrative.
According to the text, simply listening to this structured history of survival and divine intervention isn't just educational, it's a sacred act. The text claims that reciting or even just attentively listening to this history, which was composed by the illustrious Vyasa, physically and spiritually rewards the focused learner. We're talking earning religious merit, conquering the heavens, and gaining the respect of both gods and men. I absolutely love this quote from the sage Vaisampayana. It totally elevates the act of remembering our ancestors from some dry, dusty genealogy lesson into a profound religious experience. This isn't just a list of ancient names. It's a sacred history, viewed as holy and excellent, capable of bestowing wealth, fame, and life itself upon anyone who listens with rapt attention. So as we wrap up today's explainer on the miraculous survival of the Pandava line, I want to leave you with this final thought. We've seen a family tree survive against literal cosmic odds to shape a mythological world. If knowing our past truly grants us wealth, fame, and life, what history are you passing down to your descendants? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and as always, stay curious.